Hey everyone, this is Pete, and welcome back to Atari A to Z Flashback, a series of explorations of the 150 games that make up Atari Flashback Classics for Nintendo Switch. Today's game is Surround, which we'll be taking a look at in just a moment after I've gone through my notes. So this was a 1977 release for Atari 2600, developed by Alan Miller. It was one of the 9 launch titles for the Atari 2600, and it's an unofficial console port of Gremlin's arcade game Blockade, which Atari had also adapted for their own arcade lineup as Dominoes. So Gremlin, if you're wondering, is not the same as Gremlin Graphics, who became a bit more well known in the sort of late 8 and early 16-bit era, and then onwards into the PC era as well. But yeah, Gremlin was a different company, and Blockade was basically the first game of the type that we now know as Snake games. And so Surround was basically the first console adaptation of the Snake format. This is actually one of the launch games for the Atari 2600 that holds up the best, particularly given the fact that it's got some single player modes in it as well, which is quite unusual for early competitive Atari 2600 games. So what we'll do is we'll have a look through the manual, if I can find where I've put the remote control. So I can switch over to play lag free. There we go. Right, let's take a quick look at the manual. Surround game program instructions. Use your joystick controllers for this, blah 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 blah. In all Surround games, beginner players should slide the switch to the B position. This position prevents players from backing onto their previous track block. So that basically means that if you're moving left, it won't let you push right and kill yourself. So, yeah. Okay, if on the off chance you've not come across some form of Snake-like game before, you control sort of the head of a line that is moving around. You leave a trail as you move around the screen. The game automatically moves the blocks, and you leave tracks on the playfield. You control the horizontal and vertical movement of the tracks with the joystick. So there are various different game modes in there, each of which have their own features. So there's the speed up feature, which means that as you continue playing the game, it will gradually accelerate. There's the diagonal movement mode, which is self-explanatory. It allows you to move diagonally as well as up, down, left, right. There's the erase mode, where you can hold down the fire button, and that will stop you leaving a trail for a little while, and then release the fire button and you'll start drawing again. And then in wrap-around mode, there's no wall on the play field, so you can move off one side and reappear on the other. So you score 1 point when your opponent steers his leader block into another part of his track or your track. If you're playing a game that does not offer wraparound, you can also score 1 point when your opponent collides with the playfield boundary. All games have a playfield boundary except games with the feature wraparound. First player to score 10 points wins the game. And then finally, there's also this video graffiti mode where you can use the mechanics of the game to draw things. I'm sure you can imagine the sorts of things that you could draw with video graffiti. It's like a little face, as shown here in the manual. Like a little face. I mean, what else would you draw with it? Anyway, here's the matrix of games. So you can see that game number 1 and 2 are just standard games. Games 3 and 4 have the speed up. Game 5 adds the diagonal movement. 6 and 7 are diagonal movement and speed up. 7 is speed up and erase. 8 is wraparound. 8 is wraparound and speed up. Sorry, 9 is wraparound and speed up. 10 is speed up, diagonal and wraparound. 11 is speed up, diagonal movement and wraparound. What's different there? I don't know. Anyway, 12 is everything, basically. And then video graffiti, mode 13, you don't have diagonal movement, and mode 14, you do. So since I'm by myself today, we're just going to be playing the single player modes today, but you'll get a good idea of how this game works. It's fairly straightforward. Yeah, well, you'll see. You'll see. Let's play. Surround. Please connect the controller for player 2. I'm not going to do that. As you can see on the screen, that is the last thing that I used video graffiti for. Not that I'm childish at all. Right, 2 player, 1 player. Let's play. So I'm controlling the green block. And the computer is controlling the red block. And the computer has already messed themselves up. Good job, computer player. Right, let's try and be vaguely strategic about this. There we go. Nicely done, I think you'll agree. Yes, I say there are single-player modes in this game. It's not, you know, it's not a super smart computer opponent or anything like that, but it is a computer opponent nonetheless. And since a lot of early 2600 games were made for 2 players only, this game was a really nice inclusion for the fact that you could play it solo. You could compete against this computer player. And practice your skills before you terrorized your little brother with it, or whoever. Alright, 4-0 to me. Is this going to be a clean sweep for me? I suspect it might be, but, you know, stranger things have happened. Yes, you'll notice there that your leader block, you can actually pass through each other. It's just the trail that you're leaving that you can't collide with. I think we've got him. Although, yeah, that could have been nasty, but it wasn't. So everything was fine. That repetitive tone you're hearing for the movement, in the speed-up games, what happens is as you accelerate, that tone gets higher and higher and higher to kind of increase the tension, as it were. But in this standard game mode that we're playing here, well, this is what happens. Trap him! Surround him, if you will. Defeated. Beautifully done. So, I mean, like I say, we're not going to look at the majority of the game modes on this today because I'm playing by myself. But you get the idea of how they work. So, there are some quite interesting additions with those different rules. Like the diagonal movement one is quite unusual. You don't tend to see that very often in versions of Snake or equivalents. And then the erase one is really interesting because it kind of shifts one of the fundamental mechanics of Snake. Because the whole thing in games like this is that you're constantly leaving out a trail behind you and you have to sort of plan ahead to make sure that you don't trap yourself in. And with the erase mechanics, you have a completely different way of approaching game strategy, which is really interesting. So if you get the opportunity to try that with someone, I do recommend it. Oh, computer player, you are too easy to outwit. Uh-oh. Got there safely. Alright, so other modes. One player with speed up. So this should provide a slightly more interesting game. So you can't play the diagonal and the erase modes with the computer, presumably because the quote-unquote AI isn't up to the job of using those effectively. But you can play the speed up mode. So let's see how that works. There we are. There's our first acceleration. And our next one. We've got him already. Alright, go again. Nicely done. Notice that does make it quite a bit trickier, even against the computer. So the computer's still a bit of a dumbass, but the faster reactions required when playing the speed up mode. Make it a much more interesting game where you're much more likely to have a little accident like I did there. Well, he sorted himself out there, didn't he? So, very good. Right. Just block him into his nice little corner. And then it's only a matter of time. There we go, lovely. It's all about watching what your opponent's up to. Oh no! And keeping an eye on what yourself is doing. What yourself is doing. What you are doing. Alright, come on, computer player. I will not suffer the indignity of being defeated by you any further. Interesting thing about playing the computer player is that the computer player doesn't make any mistakes that are related to reactions. So beating the computer is purely a matter of either strategy, or the computer making stupid decisions when it comes to which direction it should go. Like that. As you can see, it's still not terribly bright. Shut up. No one cares that you have a broken exhaust pipe on your car. Oh no! See, the computer doesn't make mistakes like that, because the computer knows exactly when to change its direction. Uh-oh. Disappointing. That's it, you just stay in there. There's a really good clone of this on Intellivision, actually. I forget what it's actually called. It's just got something really simple, like Snakes or something like that. But the version on Intellivision is noteworthy for a few reasons, one of which is the fact that it's one of the first video games to actually have a soundtrack. So, oh no, he was going to die there, and I fucked it up. Yeah, the Intellivision version was one of the first video games to have actual proper music. So it's cool from that perspective. But the Intellivision version has also got some really nice extra game modes as well. Like it's got a really fun game mode where you have to try and chew off your opponent's tail, which is a lot of fun. Anyway, those are the two single player modes. I think everything else is two player. So not much we can do with that here. But we can play with Video Graffiti. So the way Video Graffiti works is you just push a direction. And that means you'll leave your little trail like that. And then if you hold down the button... Actually, we need to... That's it. If you hold down the button, you will not draw. I don't know if you actually... Yes, you do actually erase things that you've drawn already as well, if you pass over them with the button held down. So there we go. Like that, for example. Anyway, let's erase all that. And Video Graffiti, you can play 2-player. Which is why Atari Flashback Classics is asking me to connect a controller for player 2, because this sort of just allows 2 people to play by default. You don't have to sort of select a special 2-player Video Graffiti mode or anything like that. So let's draw a nice picture, shall we? I mean, what could it be? Maybe a car or a bicycle. Yeah, I reckon a bicycle. A nice 2-wheeled bicycle. And here's the frame of the bicycle. Or maybe the person sitting on top of it, yeah. Oh no, that's lopsided. That's no good, is it? You don't sit on your bicycle in a lopsided manner, you might fall over. And that would be awful. But, yeah, on to drawing the person's head. Which is, of course, an important part of their identity. And their face. There we go. And then just add a bit of detail to the bicycle down here, like the handlebars. And, oh no, a brake cable slipped off. That's awful, isn't it? Yeah, he really wants to get that bike serviced because it's not... I mean, it seems to be having some problems. Maybe it's I mean, the guy who's sitting on it is very tall, isn't he? So, you know, it's maybe something to do with that. But how are things looking around at the back? Let's see. There's his saddlebag. And he's got one of those posh lights mounted on the back. That's it. Just like that. And there we go. And, oh no, deleted his wheels. I forgot about the wraparound. And then he's just passing by a sign advertising something which, I don't know, people may find of interest. I mean, it's up to you, really. I mean, everyone has their own interests. And that's sort of the nature of advertising, really, isn't it? It's trying to sort of acknowledge that people have different interests while also trying to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. But I think, hopefully, we can all agree that this work of art has a certain amount of universal appeal. With my tall man on a bicycle, tall man on a faulty bicycle, riding past an advertisement for cock. Anyway, that is Surround. Like I say, If you get a chance to play this with someone else, do check out the other game maze as well, because they're quite a lot of fun. They're all very similar though. I mean, it's all the don't crash into your opponent, don't crash into the wall, don't crash into your own trail gameplay. It's just adding a few different twists on the formula as well. And you'd be surprised how much fun you can have with the video graffiti mode, particularly if you're playing with a friend and you don't tell each other what you're drawing. That can be quite entertaining. And just see what creative masterpieces you can come up with just by playing that. Anyway, I will leave you with that beautiful image and just say, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.